They want to be on the Republican team, but they're not. We have independents that want to be on the Republican team, but they're not. And if we don't make the team bigger, we don't win, right? So, I'm from New Hampshire, as everyone knows, the live free or die state. And I say all the time, it's more than 4 words on the license plate. Right? It's a great motto. But what is it? It really is how we govern. And the government, what do they say? The government that governs least governs best. And that is what we hold true. We believe in limited government and local control, individual responsibility, low taxes. It ain't my money. It's not the government's money. It's your money. I'm a big believer there's no greater responsibility in public service or even in the private sector. The one I'm most proud of is being ranked as having the most efficient government in the country. Right? You get the best programs for the least amount of dollars that we ask you to put into the system. And those dollars that do come into the system, we create a change of accountability. We don't say, well, it didn't work, we'll have to deal with that in a couple of years. We pivot, we move, we're person to person, we're looking folks in the eye, we're going to the school board meetings. As the governor, I'll go to your school board meeting, I'll go to your planning board meeting, we'll engage on those issues, we'll visit your business, we'll sit down, not to tell you why you should vote for Sununu, but I'll sit down because you vote your issues, not mine. So often we see these politicians stand up there and tell you why you should vote for them and where they are on a certain policy without ever taking 2 seconds just to listen, right? What's going on with the family? What is their struggle in school? And the government, above all else as Republicans, let's champion one straight message. I'm from the government and I am not here to solve your problems. The government is not here to solve your problems. I have a huge responsibility to create opportunities. Doors of opportunity for you or your family or your business or your school, whatever it is. Right? When it comes to education, you want school choice? I got school choice too. If you want to go to private school, great. In the country, but I've also created a system where there's almost infinite possibilities for families to decide what they want to do. Because I don't know what's best for your kid, you do. I don't know what's best for your business, I don't know what's best for your town, you do. I'm the governor, and I'm telling you as a voter, you're smarter than I am. You know where the potholes are. You know where the needs in your community are. And what happens at a local level has far more impact on your families and your business and your opportunities in life than the governor would, or definitely than Washington would. Washington's quasi-useless when it comes to actually impacting your life. It's a complete gridlock right now. You need to be able to get into the heart of systems. Mental health. I don't know a single family or single person in this country that isn't dealing with either someone in their family or a neighbor or a coworker who's going through some form of mental health crisis. That is the real crisis in this country right now. There's no doubt about it. We should own it. Look, this is the opportunity to take the Republican Party to the next level. And if we sit here and just start saying, well, this is America, we're about innovation, and the next great thing, and the next 2.0, isn't that what America's about? We always want the next thing. But don't tell me the best opportunity for leadership is going backwards, guys. No way. That is not in our spirit and in our DNA as Americans. We have to be about the next big idea, the next voices, the next generation. Because if not, we're just going to wither on the vine. Democrats have done that very, very well. Right? They have a crappy product, an awful product. But boy, and they don't advertise. You notice this? The Democrats don't advertise. They vote for this candidate, vote for this policy. They influence. They use media. They use TikTok. They use Instagram. They use social media. They use all the ways that young people absorb information in their world, and drop by drop. They're very patient. We can sit here and complain about George Soros all we want. The guy is an evil, horrible human being. But guess what? He started making investments in the 80s to build for today. He started making investments in socialism and things that would bring this country down, knowing that he was playing a long game. We have to start thinking about the long game. We have to start thinking about those independents, right? And like I said, we got a great product. So let's highlight the things that do a few things. Things that bring us together. We can all agree on Republicans on being pro-business. We can all agree on being about individual liberty. We can all agree on having local control and low taxes. Independents like that. Young people like that. But man, we get ourselves tied up in issues that I'm not saying they're not important, but they ain't making the team bigger. And unless we start breaking through the echo chamber, and I said this to the folks at Fox. I talked to the guys at Fox. I learned with Kahuna this morning. And I talk to the leadership at Fox all the time. I said, look at this. You're talking. I saw a panel discussion with like 4 panelists on Fox, and they all were literally agreeing with each other. I said, what are you doing? I said, great, we all agree. We would all watch that panel and say, yep, I agree, I agree, I agree. They're talking in an echo chamber. What are you doing to grow the team? What are you doing to have a better, more broader product? Because if we don't do it, we're going to lose. I want winners. Famous former leader once said, I don't like losers. Losers lose. And look, we can all try to convince ourselves that 2022 wasn't so bad. 2022, we got our asses kicked, and let's own that. We did. We did. And if we run 24 like we ran 22, it's going to happen again, and we'll all be sitting here going, oh, why did we lose? Because we did it the same way. We didn't have the courage to evolve our message, to be inspirational. Who wants to get on the team when they're always getting yelled at? Right? We have all these folks on their leadership positions that are yelling at each other, and they're screaming, and they're negative, and they're bashing this, and they're bashing that. But no one wants to be on that team. This is America. We want to be inspired. There's a reason people literally risk them and their families' lives coming to this country. It's for that opportunity, that Republicans, that are pro-business, local control, individual freedom. That is the heart of why everyone wants to be here. Let's go sell that product because it's ours. And at the same time, here's my message. Let's go steal the Democrats' product. For years, we've been told, and America has been convinced that the Democrats are better on social issues. You walk the streets of San Francisco and you tell me that the Democrats' policies on homelessness, on mental illness, and on drugs is working for America. An abject disaster. I come from a state with the lowest poverty rate in the country. One of the lowest homeless rates in the country. It isn't by accident, guys. I worked really hard. I get that. I worked really, really hard. With 4 term government, not by accident, because I get results. And I work really hard on those issues to create opportunity for folks that don't have the opportunity that a lot of us have today. No, not a single person in California can blame that issue on a Republican. They're going to have to own it, so let's make them own it. Let's make them own that failure. And if we just say, well, Democrats are for socialism and the country's going to hell. Look, I understand the country's in trouble. I was just down walking on Broadway. Anyone on Broadway this morning? There's 200,000 people having a ball. Spending a lot of money in Nashville, Tennessee, right now as we speak. But not one of them, I can guarantee you, thinks that there's some massive economic crisis. There is, by the way. I'm a fiscal hawk. There's a huge economic crisis. But people aren't feeling it. They're going to. Personal debt is rising. Inflation is real. We thought just talking about inflation would be enough. It's not. We didn't connect the dots for folks. So we have these issues that we're very good at. We're terrible at marketing. We have the opportunity to steal the Democrats' issues. But at the same time, we keep talking in the same echo chamber. Let's get out of our comfort zone. Let's go after the bigger picture. And as tough as I think 24 is going to be, like I said, if we do that, then I feel more confident about 2028, 2032. I'm looking at you, Mayor Suarez, by the way, I'm just saying. I love that guy. Right? We have a lot of great talent out there. Leadership that gets stuff done. Results driven. You show me anyone that, I don't mean to triple down on it, but you show me anyone that doesn't want to walk the streets of Miami 10 times over than Los Angeles, Chicago, or San Francisco. And that's Republican leadership that's getting it done. Let's champion that. Let's own that. And let's spread that message even bigger. I just think there's great opportunity. Be inspirational. We should be the ones that everybody wants to get on board with. Let's just go out and make that happen. Look, I'm happy. Look, I will go away quietly. I'll take questions, whatever folks want. Don't just listen to a politician and walk away. What are you going to do when you get back to your business or your family or home after you come back from the retreat? What are you going to do to get the message out to those that already aren't on the team? Right? Reach out. I get criticized all the time. They say, Governor, I can't believe you're doing interviews with CNN. Of course I'm going to do interviews with CNN. We need those voters. And by the way, are you telling me that those commentators are going to give me a question I can't handle? They're Democrats. Are you kidding? We should own them. We should go on their stations. We should go in their backyards and own them. And we have that opportunity. Okay. I don't know what I wrote down here. God knows. I love it, man. I think it's great that you're all here. I think it's great that we can grab something that's positive, grab something to take back to our communities, wherever we are from in the country. And again, you all might have long trips back home, but when you're traveling, I just ask you this. New Hampshire has no sales tax, no income tax, no interest on dividends tax, the most free country, the most personal freedoms in the country according to Cato, the most efficient government, so you can all rethink your life choices as you're heading home. And as long as you don't mind shoveling a little snow. Anyone who can really shovel snow and handle the Northeast comes to New Hampshire. So, look, you guys are really good at... Oh, come on, please. I'll take questions. Let's do some questions. I'm dying to hear what's on folks' minds. Or I'll go away and you can eat salmon or whatever we're doing. There's got to be something out there.
You met on CNN that you changed their mind. Because we're trying to do that in Chicago.
So honestly,
we need to do it. Yeah.
I'll tell you something. Publicly, okay, let's take a step back. Let's understand what media is for a second. There are journalists. There are opinion pundits. That mostly, I'll call it the 7 o'clock hour and later, where folks are just going to kind of give you their opinion, and they own it. The Fox has their conservatives, and the MSNBCs and CNNs. And then there's entertainment. That people that I don't believe that and has been proven, they're telling you what they actually don't believe, but they're hitting you with what you want to hear to give you an endorphin rush, right? Right? And there's on the left and the right. We have those as well. I'm a friend of Dana Bash. Dana's on CNN. She can be really tough. She's one of my... She hits me, because we're friendly, she actually hits me with some of the tougher questions. I think privately, a lot of these folks get it. But they will tell you, and I'm just going to be blunt, and I'm going to piss off half the room, but I just don't care. 4-term governor. I don't care. But they'll tell you, look, if you give us an alternative other than Trump, we would come on board. But we're just so scared to death you're going to give us yesterday's news. And that's divisive, and we're never going to get there. So I'm not saying that that's the end-all, be-all, but for a lot of folks it is. Let's own that. Maybe you're with him, maybe you're not. Maybe he gets the nomination, maybe he doesn't. I'm pretty blunt with my opinion that there's no way he can win in November. And I want winners, that's it. And so I think there's a lot of folks out there, in the media and otherwise, that are just saying, don't give us the same old thing. Don't give us someone that I have to explain my vote. I'm tired of having to explain why I'm supporting Republicans to my friends. Right? People don't want to be put in that position. And I just don't think that's what the Republican Party is about. Yeah.
I'm curious, can you tell us your dad?
Mental illness. And untreated mental illness. 9 out of 10 people, when we have folks on the streets in New Hampshire, we have homeless in New Hampshire, we're not perfect. So we have homeless, but 9 out of 10, 8.5 to 9 out of 10 are dealing with a mental illness.
What about addiction?
Addiction? That's part of it. So what happens is a lot of addiction is now dealing with addiction can come in a variety of ways. I used to be number 2 in the country for overdose deaths, right? I completely blew up my system. All the Democrats freaked out. All the nonprofits freaked out. I blew up the system, and I'm an engineer by trade. I redesigned the whole system. We're now number 30 in the country. Wow. Still not good enough for me. I want to be the dead last in the country on that statistic. But the courage to change the system and engage folks on what got them there. But the vast majority is undiagnosed mental health. In New Hampshire, we made huge investments with our mental health workers. Huge parts of the country, they're not investing in mental health. They don't have the workforce to do it. They got burnt out during the pandemic, and they're not putting people literally on the streets. And in California, they're saying, look, to ask you to move your tents, to ask you to not live on the street isn't appropriate. Meanwhile, it's actually the most undignified thing you can do. The one of the most inhumane things you can do is let people live and defecate on the street. It's horrible. Gavin Newsom treats his citizens like animals. That's disgusting. I used to live there. I lived there for 3 years. It's always had a challenge, but they have exacerbated that so badly. We should be owning that issue. But it comes with mental health and dealing with the drug crisis.
Of course, you can't just remove them from the street because the Ninth Circuit and the federal courts don't allow you to remove them from the street. There's a big issue there, about.
So if you create the right policies, and again, the Ninth Circuit, if you want to talk about federal laws, federal judges, and I have my issue with federal judges in every different circuit. But, what what one circuit says, most of us technically are supposed to abide by. But if you create the right policies and laws and opportunities, you don't have to move them. They want to come. You have to show them a door of opportunity. You have to show them a better path. And yeah, that means this bail reform nonsense that people went down the path, that was horrible. Right? Because now you have folks breaking laws. Nobody wants to be, quote, arrested if they're breaking the law, so they just live on the street, and it gets more and more undiagnosed. And this is the other big issue, what we did in New Hampshire. If you put all your mental health and drug treatment services in the inner city, horrible. The addiction rates and the undiagnosed mental health issues in suburban, rural areas are 4 times that of the inner city. But in more affluent suburban areas, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to deal with it. And I'm not going to confront whatever issue I'm dealing with if I might lose my family or my job or whatever. So we have a thing in New Hampshire, I invented a thing called recovery-friendly workplaces. I train employers to make sure when someone has an addiction problem, they can stay on the job and be part of their family and have that self-worth with the wraparound services that come with it. Yeah. Specifically in rural areas where there's typically not a lot of treatment in this country. Sorry, I could go on all day. Yeah. Hi. Yeah.
You talked earlier about the under 45 age group. So what are the 2 best ways to communicate try to get the younger group to open their hearts?
You bet. So if you poll what policies are important to people by age group, again, it's really the 35. Let's stick with 45. But 35, 45 and under. Those Republicans. You know what their priorities are? The environment. They're not climate change crazy. Right? They're not there. Of course they should be there. But look, they say, hey, are you making smart, are we securing energy dependence, like our energy, which we should? Are you also acknowledging and making smart, responsible moves to solar or wind or whatever it is? Not going crazy, not burdening the low-income families with higher costs and all that. Are you acknowledging it? Every time Republicans talk about the climate, we talk about the insanity of the ultra-left socialists. But what we're doing is we're saying we're not even going to deal with the issue. Meanwhile, we've done some very good things on the environment that we don't typically talk about enough. They care a lot about homelessness. Everybody sees the homelessness crisis. And that's why I think it's such a great opportunity to go grab that. We should be owning that. What you're doing with these community centers in the inner city is phenomenal. Because it lands us, it creates that infrastructure long term to land us right in the inner cities, talk about these issues, and drive on the right, not just policies, but real solutions. And people will see those results. I think it's phenomenal. So there's just 2 issues that hold very high with young Republicans, but we don't really talk about. Look, I hate wokeism, I hate cancel culture, I hate all that stuff. Let's own that the younger generation, not a top, they don't like it, but it's not a top priority for them. So that's all we're talking about, or that's all we're driving on. That's a tough one for young people to say, we're going to get on board because of that. If they're on board because of that, we already got it, right? I'm looking for the folks that have been a little bit disenfranchised. So I'm not saying don't talk about it, don't address it, but understand, know your audience, right? Politics, know your audience. Talk to what they care about, not just what we want to espouse. This is fun. I'm about to say something really, really controversial.
Governor, this is the first time I'm hearing you, and I think most everybody will agree, you are a terrific speaker.
Well, when I'm compared to an 83-year-old, my dad, who's 83, sitting at home, who will be texting me in a moment going, I hope you didn't embarrass me. I figured I had to bring a little bit.
So, but I do have a serious question.
Sure.
And particularly, not the less than 43-year-old or 45-year-old think about it. What is your plan regarding China 2049, where they want to be the world dominant power?
Well, that is the question, but there's actually a very simple answer. Peace in this world is maintained when America is the world leader and the strongest. Period. End of story. End of story. And that emphasis on strong on China, we show our strength on China, we show our resolve against our enemies, if you will, by showing, and I'm very strong on Ukraine. We win in Ukraine, and I have no tolerance for anyone who thinks we should back down and win back. This is the United States of America. We support allies, we support coalitions, and we put fear in the minds of our enemies. And you start backing out now, you give Putin a win now, we'll never live it down. Because it opens the door to Taiwan. It opens the door in that west. Let's just talk about the Pacific. What does Japan and Australia and India, what do all those countries think when they say, well, if there's a push on Taiwan, is America going to be resolved to stand with it, to see it through the good times and the bad, right? So we need our allies to know our strength. And when we are strong, and the former President Trump deserves a lot of credit for this, he made sure America was strong, and there was some of the greatest peace on earth during his tenure. And he deserves all the credit. We obviously need China as a partner, right? Look, that's why they're making huge investments in assets in Africa, even in the Atlantic. New Hampshire has a partnership with Cabo Verde, very tiny African nation. It's an island nation. It used to be part of Portugal. A lot of folks don't even know about it. But we now, the federal government asked us, my National Guard, to become a partner with their military. Their military could literally fit in this room. God bless them. But the reason is this: I flew over there to sign that agreement, and you saw their university completely rebuilt by the Chinese. You saw their ports completely rebuilt by the Chinese. They are landing and investing today to have infrastructure assets because they know internally they're going to have some major struggles. And to Xi Jinping's credit, he has held on to power like this. And make no mistake, he hates capitalism, he hates the West. So we better understand that when we take more of a leadership role in that partnership. But you do it through strength. You do it through generosity. You do it through the fact that we are the most humanitarian country on earth. And look, people go, it might cost us, we just invested $50 billion in Ukraine. Think about this, $50 billion, telling me I can crush that tin can army of the Russians for 1/10 of 1 year's budget between Iran and Saudi. Huge, huge opportunity for them. And we just let it happen. Right? So they are making investments and they're building partnerships for tomorrow. We still have an opportunity to make sure that we stay on top with our strength internationally.
I have the mic.
Oh, hey. Kellyanne Conway has the microphone. Thank you, guys. This has been great. I know she's going to give me the toughest question. I love it. Let's see.
I am actually, because we're friends, and I'm thrilled that you're governor of New Hampshire and you're a leader in our party. But I do want to ask you why you're the only Republican standing in the state. So you didn't run for Senate against Maggie Hassan, so we'll have to suffer her for 6 more years. A, why didn't you do that so we can have majority control?
Yeah.
B, why did the Democrats win 21 state legislative seats? I want to make sure that in states like yours, where we have popular governors reelected to their 4th term, that we're building the bench.
Yeah.
That you have state legislative leadership that you need to get your agenda through. So tell us the rest of the New Hampshire story.
I would love to. Look, I have 2 congressmen and 2 senators, and I've never had a single one of them be Republican. Now, out of 3 out of my 4 terms, the House and the Senate are run by Republicans. At the end of the day, I haven't had the right candidates, and unfortunately, the national issues of really where we drive on those races are always tied to more of a national issue. It doesn't play well in a reddish purple state like New Hampshire. It just doesn't. So when you have a weak candidate, they say, well, I'm just going to defer to whatever they're saying out of Washington. We're about local control. If anything, and that's why I always tease Marcia. I make fun of the Senate. She's the best. She's such a good sport. And the Senate does a fine job. I'm always teasing a little bit. But at the end of the day, those national issues do not resonate to a state where the most impactful control is at town meetings, and the most impactful issues are happening in your schools. So when we have candidates that just repeat what they're hearing out of Washington on the Republican side, it just doesn't translate. It's not genuine. If you can't be genuine, if you can't look someone in the eye, why do we have the First in the Nation primary? Because at the end of the day, we want to look you in the eye. We want to know you as a person before we even get to policy. I mean, the running joke is, hey, are you going to vote for Joe Biden? Well, how do I know? I've only met him twice. Right? I mean, that's what they said, because we have to meet you time and again. You got to earn it person to person. Too often, our Republican candidates are very, I don't want to say lazy, but they fall into a trap. You can do it in other states. You can get there, but not so much in New Hampshire, of just saying, well, this is the national issue of the day. I need the national help. We don't raise a lot of money in New Hampshire. Remember, we have presidential candidates literally begging to come into our living rooms and meet us and our neighbors. We don't ask. We don't pay for that privilege. They pay us. So there's not a lot of money to raise. So there is a big reliance on outside dollars into a small state like New Hampshire, and we get overwhelmed by it on Democratic Democrat. I don't know if that's the best answer you want to hear, but we just have candidates that just haven't stayed true to what I think makes New Hampshire. But every state's different. You gotta know your RNC, you gotta know what plays in your state. I just haven't had it. I'll just be blunt, the candidate quality. I mean, I had General Don Bolduc as a U.S. Senate candidate. I'm sorry, the guy was freaking insane. He was. He was a great man that served this country. A great man that started talking about mental illness in the military before anybody else was doing that. But when it came to being a political candidate, my God, it was nuts. Couldn't get it. So I have 15 senators in my legislature, Republican senators out of 24. We're going to have a majority there for a while. I have 400 House members. 400. They get paid $100 a year. It is truly a citizen government. Now, I used to have 230 members. I used to have Democrats running it. Do you know what the split is right now? 201 Republicans to 199 Democrats. Are we stuck in gridlock? Nope. I still get my conservative agenda done. Even when Democrats were running the legislature, I still got my tax cuts. Look, negotiating with Democrats is easy. It really is. Anyone who says they can't get stuff, you can give them a little of this to get a lot of that. Right? And you can always find a way to do it. But you got to make results through it. Let me tell you a quick story. This was a funny one. Democrats are running the House. In 2018, everyone got wiped out in New Hampshire. All Democrats except me. And so I'm dealing with a very strong Democrat House and Senate. And I brought them in early and said, what are your priorities? This was early in my session. They gave me a list of their priorities. Now, fast forward 6 months, we're negotiating the budget. You're not getting your tax cuts. You're not helping these businesses, Governor. We're not going to let you do it. Oh, really? Okay. I said, well, what do you guys want? I want tax cuts that help the entire state. Well, I remember you guys talking about SNAP benefits. Benefits that help these really low-income families with food and things like that. And I said, yeah, but you would never give us an increase in SNAP benefits. I said, sure I would. You bet. You want that? Because all your advocates would love it if you walked out of the Republican governor's office and got that big win. They said, yeah, we'd like that. I said, well, just give me the tax cuts for the businesses. They said, okay, we'll do it. So they walked out of my office. They were so excited. They were so happy that they got this minor increase in SNAP benefits. Meanwhile, I got tax cuts for every business in the state. Because I don't have sales and income taxes like the last tax that we had. By the way, lowest poverty rate in the country. It cost me nothing to increase SNAP benefits. But I was willing to give them a little bit of a political win, of a talking point, so they could go out and say they got something out of the tough Republican governor. Who cares? At the end of the day, my state was so much stronger for it. There's always ways to negotiate. And I'm sorry, I'm going to hit the former president again. Don't tell me 4 years ain't enough to get stuff done. I got to get elected every 2. Every 2. And I get more than enough stuff to get elected every year. And I'm held accountable to that. So we got to hold our elected officials accountable. I don't care whether you're on the school board, the governor, the president. We hire you to get, I'm going to say that word, we're hired to get stuff done. Get out there and own it. Negotiate. Even if the Republicans are doing, who cares? Give a little, get a lot. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science. And this idea that we get stuck with this gridlock, I don't buy it, man. There's always a way to figure it out.
Governor, this will be the last question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Governor, I was just struck by your description of talking on CNN, and my impression of CNN is that the only Republicans they like are the veterans, or the ones that criticize other Republicans. And I have the sense that the culture is so divided at this point that the only way we're going to be successful is by drawing clear demarcations on issues that we're strongest with the public on, as opposed to trying blurring issues and somehow kind of giving a ground. Because I think if you do that, it sort of undermines the whole mission. It makes us look like we're more apologetic for where we are instead of standing up and fighting. I just want to have you react to that. I mean, I think all this is tough fighter who's going to fight for our values, because I think we believe that we're really under siege. And that's our perception.
So look, you always have, you need leadership that has to be willing to have the fight. But you cannot be defined by the fight. I mean, look, I'll go on, as insane as he is, I was talking to someone in the room about how insane Don Lemon is. He's a jerk. Class A jerk. I'll always go on and crass. I don't give him anything. I don't cave. I win the argument. That isn't apologizing. Going on and winning an argument against Jake Tapper, Denver Bash, and all those kind of lunatics, going on and winning the argument, that's not apologizing. That's showing that you do it and doing it with a smile and not being combative. People are ticked off of always being caught up in a national fight. We got to understand, you have to be more, you're absolutely right. Show what you're about. Stand on it. Be proud of it. Be happy with it. Show the wins. And if you do that, you bring more folks to your side. But I'm not saying go in and capitulate or apologize. No. Go in and win the argument. I mean, I think Ron DeSantis is a great governor. But I tell them all the time, would you just go on, Ron? Beat them at their own game. If we're just going to sit here, because what you're saying is just go on Fox and talk to ourselves. Fox is great. It's awesome. We love Fox. But that isn't how you win a general election. You've got to, either we're going to win with independents and younger voters and talk to them where they're absorbing their information and convince them to be on our team. Not by capitulating and apologizing, by winning the argument. We're smarter than they are. We get better results than they do. We can draw a line, but if we're always drawing a line only on our side of the conversation and not being willing to go and engage them on their side, well, then we're just going to be talking to ourselves. At the end of the day, I don't care who the nominee is. I want to win. Because, by the way, I don't want to see what happened in 2022 again. I don't want senators or governors or school board members getting dragged down because we were unwilling to go, not be part of the other side and negotiate, but go into those mediums and win the day of the argument, right? Go on Instagram. Go on. Look, I was the first governor in the country that banned TikTok, right? We don't use TikTok. We don't touch TikTok. But people are consuming information with TikTok, right? 200 million Americans consume information with TikTok. So as politicians, you should be using TikTok, by the way, because that's how voters are taking their information. It's like we have some of the best voting laws in the country. We really do. We don't have a problem with our election system. We don't have early voting. We don't do ballot harvesting, all that kind of nonsense. But they do in California. And if you're unwilling to play by those rules in California, well, then you're going to lose. So I don't like those rules, but if you don't win, you can't change it. So you go play by those rules. They ballot harvest, you should ballot harvest. They vote early, you should vote early. What are we doing? Why would we? I know, no, you're doing it. I know, no.
Don't say that, because we do it.
But we didn't do it in 2020.
Yes, we did. How do we win Bartek? How do we win Bartek? I'm just going to put it out, and I don't mean to interrupt.
No, please.
Right, Fox is wrong on this, and you guys are people talking one zoning, and it is wrong. We are ballot harvesting in California. We won 5 House seats ballot harvesting through 2018. Fought 4 of them in 2020.
Okay, then let me harp on 2020 in Georgia. Let me harp on 2020 in Georgia.
2022 in Georgia. We won 8 out of 9 states.
No, 2020, where we told people to stay home. We had leadership telling people not to participate in the weekend. I'm not blaming the RNC. I'm not blaming the RNC. Look.
So hard, and we did it in Nevada, and we did it in Montana. It's not enough to be resident, but I think we have to do that early, and we can't wait till the last minute to do these things. So that's
I'm not picking on the RNC. I'm picking on the government. Yeah, I know. It's good. You gotta play by the rules that you're given. There's no doubt about it. That's the overall message. You gotta play by the rules that you're given, right?
Yeah.
I feel like we didn't get controversial. I gotta say something else outrageous. Hey, this has been absolutely great. Build the team. Make it bigger. Go talk to someone that you don't think is quite on the team. Or talk to someone that you, again, don't take it for granted that we know exactly who's on the team. Make it bigger. And if you start today, it takes 18 months. Don't wait for the general election to come. 18 months. I mean, here's another one for AI, right? AI is a threat, but believe you me, they've got, and we're starting to do it now, but they have tons of organizations on their side that are going to use AI in a very modern, sophisticated way to influence a new vote. And we're making the investments on our side. But understand that that's kind of the new paradigm of how we're going to win this thing. But it takes 18 months to build it. With your money, with your time, with your voices. Keep it local, keep it Republican, build the party. Thank you guys.